Hello to you, it's so great to see you and I do hope that you are well. I'm Jenny Kirk, welcoming you here to another video. We're out and about, we've come to South Wales and an old childhood haunt of mine. We used to play on this as a very small child and it's amazing to find that it's still here. I have to mark it down, these buffers don't appear to be sprung. That's very poor show there. But that's not the main reason that we've come down to South Wales. We've actually come to visit Oxford Diecast, Oxford Rail, and we're going to be taking a look around their amazing premises and having a chat with Eloise and Gwion and taking an exclusive first look at the production samples of the all-new J26. So come with me and let's go and have a closer look. Today's video is sponsored by Tram, makers of DCC decoders designed to be fully compatible with every manufacturer's locomotive. Visit train-o-matic.com to browse the full range and see what they've got suitable for you. We're proud to be supported by TMC, the Model Centre, your first choice for new and used. Pre-order all forthcoming models with confidence, or check out the extensive listings of second-hand. Each model is checked by experts in the field to make sure you're getting the very best. With new models uploaded daily, there's always something new to find. You can also specify from their value weathering and renumbering service right through to bespoke graffiti to get exactly the model that you want. Get something special today by browsing at themodelcentre.com.
This is the Welsh Swansea Tram.
So that's the Mumbles railway.
The Mumbles one, yes. We get asked all the time, you know, make a model of it, make a model of it. But when you weigh up what the tooling costs will be, there's one livery.
Yes.
We don't know, we don't feel confident that we could justify, you know, to be able to sell the, you know, we need to be able to
It's very
sell.
specialist, yeah. Because I mean, even though there was one of them that was briefly preserved up in Leeds, it ended up at the Middleton Railway. Then sadly, I think there was an arson attack, so it got destroyed.
Oh, no.
But it's very iconic for Swansea. I know my mother always talked about the Mumbles trams from when she was very small. But I can imagine that, you know, you've got to be able to make the calculation. Can we sell enough of these to make back the cost of the tooling? And is there enough potential to amortize the tooling over multiple production runs rather than one and done, which can be very expensive in this industry?
And when you're trying to keep our product at the same price point, I mean, we could make it, but it would cost a fortune to sell it to people, you know, and I just don't know whether people would want to buy it if it was totally out of sync with what else we do. So but I got this out from it was being stored away, and I thought people want to see it, you know. So this
and does it work?
It did. So the model was made by, I think it was a company called Oxwich Models, and they're based in, I think it's Neath, I think it was. And so they made like a couple of hundred pieces of them limited, like this. And then what we did was we added, I think there might have been lighting in there, and it was originally planned to be built on this layout. And as you can see over there, that's where we started building to extend this. But then the guy that was doing it for us, you know, he stopped producing it and it came to a halt. But we had taken it to a couple of shows just like this, and I remember you switched it on and it would run in and out. So there was some mechanism that was working, but I think it's a little bit worn at the moment. But we're going to try and see if we can restore it back up so that when we do attend events, you know,
I mean, that would be lovely, because it is a lovely model. And I mean, the Mumbles trams are huge. They're was it something like 140 people you could squeeze onto one? They were big beasts.
It's in Swansea, everyone always talks about it. So yeah, so it's a lovely piece, and it's a shame that we've had it in a box on the roof of our office for so long. But we've pulled it down now, and here's our layout. That my dad had this made personally. He paid someone to make for personally, because he wanted to always have a layout that we could take to a show should we need to. And historically we would use these miniature layouts that we had. They all all sort of pieced together to create one larger one. So this one's the boats one, because we used to do triang. This is more boats, but we've got more of them up on the top, and it's all stored like that. So we could take it to a show, pull them out piece by piece, and they'd all be a little bit themed. So we'd have, like he's done with this one, is that he wanted to have, so it's a fire engine, because we do a lot of fire engine products.
Yes.
A church where you could have a wedding, you could also have a funeral, and we do hearses and wedding cars.
Yes.
And he tried to, this part specifically, he wanted all the Land Rovers on, because we have so
Land Rovers are really popular.
So each little scene there that, we've got...
and you've got the farm as well, with things like the tractors.
Camping for, we have mobile food trailers and things like that. So it's kind of creating...
But also, like, you could have like a steam fair with, because you do the, like the steamrollers and the showman's engine type things, and also vintage vehicles.
Yeah.
And I think that that's great for being able to show people the models in an environment that kind of fires up their imagination.
Yeah.
And then you've also got the shuttle. I know you had I think you had a pre-production sample of the J26. Which I think for a lot of people to actually see it working is great.
So this is where we do all the testing, repairing, designing, developing.
So these have just arrived then.
This is the production samples for the J26. This is pretty much how you're going to see them in the shops now. Myself, I'm pretty damn pleased with them. They've come out really, really well.
I mean, I'm looking at that livery. Is absolutely superb.
It's the contrast between the gloss as well as the matte finish to the smoke box door and the cab roof, which really sets it apart. There's a lot of other details in there you may notice, very subtle differences between this and the previous J27. Things like the ends of the axles are actually covered, so that they previously they were exposed. You'd see just the silver ends of the axles. Here we actually have covers on them, so they look more like the prototype. And the rims of the tyres have also been painted as per the prototype, so there's a huge elevation in the quality of the product. As I say, versus its predecessor. But there are improvements all across the board, including the sounds. So we worked a lot with the ESU to improve the sound setup on it. We've completely redesigned that setup. We've increased the speaker size. It was originally 11 by 15 by 3 mil. It's now 13 by 18 by 4.5 mil. And that's producing a much better quality sound, as well as the sound project itself has been upgraded and overhauled by ESU, and that also sounds fantastic. It does.
So will all versions come with a factory fitted speaker, or only the ones that ship with sound?
Yeah, all versions will be sound ready, so they will have that speaker installed ready for you to use. So you will be able to upgrade it either with a third party sound decoder, or you will be able to purchase the sound decoder direct from us. We're also talking with ESU about publishing the sound project, so those who have access to V5 lock sound decoders, as well as a lock programmer like we've got here, could actually tinker with it, make their own changes to it, and be able to make it their own if they want. I'm kind of the advocate of, if I buy a loco with sound, maybe I don't like the whistle that's been included in it. So by having the access to the source files, they're going to be able to go out and record their own sounds, or pull it offline or whatever, and they'll be able to make it their own, which is something I think would be really good for the hobby.
And I think as well, even the same members of a class, different locomotives would have had slightly different quirks, and that then lets you change a little bit so that no two locomotives are absolutely identical to each other, which gives you that variety if you've got multiple members in your fleet.
I think so, absolutely. Yeah, I mean there will be variants that have slightly different whistles on them. Some might have been damaged. Some in their later life, the sounds might there may be more steam leaks.
Yes.
So you can change the feel and the sounds of the loco, but we give you the base starting point for that. So yeah, hopefully at some point ESU will publish that on their website for everyone to play and tinker with.
So do you have all of the different livery options, or is it just the North?
No, all 4 livery options are here.
And also, I mean, you've got examples. This is the next run of the banana wagons. You're basically trying to do every variant that there ever was, in terms of you've got the ones that were loaned to the Southern Railway,
Yes.
and then you've got another run of the northeastern ones and the BR ones?
Yeah, so originally we had the northeastern large letter and the BR. Since then we've rerun those 2, but they have been upgraded. These are now revised with more accurate liveries. The British Rail version is now in a BR bauxite rather than the LNER red oxide that was before, so that fits in better. And we've also then included, as you mentioned, the patched Southern Railway when the banana train went to Southampton, as well as the post-1937 LNER livery, because they all consolidated and all the different companies kind of standardised how they did the livery on wagons so that the workmen wouldn't be confused and have to look around the wagon to find the various information. It was all in the same place in the same format on every company. So yeah, those are the 2 new inclusions, but as well as that we've expanded the range by changing how many numbers we produce. So originally you had just the 2 liveries, and they had the 1 number and that was it. Every version of the 4 liveries now will have 3 numbers.
Right.
So you know, depending on what era you're going to have, you can straight away buy 3 of them and have a rake to use on your layout without having to paint and renumber your wagons.
One of the areas you were telling me that has changed in the design is to do with the sound profile. We talked a little bit on the layout about the speaker, but you've actually got here, this is the older design as it would have been in the J27.
J27 one, yeah.
And you can see that the speaker size in there is much smaller than in the new one. There's a much bigger speaker, but also, I suppose the biggest development is that there's a hole mesh underneath to actually allow that sound to escape, which wasn't there on the older design. So
absolutely. So you've gone from something that was muffled and trapped to having much more clearer sound.
Yeah.
You know, that the travel especially is going to come through a lot clearer than it did before.
And I think that's very important. I've heard quite a lot of sound profiles that are almost strangled by the speaker constraints and the fact that the speaker might be in a model, but there's no way for that sound to get anywhere where you'd hear it. So it sounds almost like if you were stood outside a nightclub listening to the music instead of being in there. So it's nice to see some subtle but very effective changes on there. And we've also got the different livery samples.
So the one at the back, this is kind of just showing the development. So this is a J27.
Oh, right, yes.
And then we have the decorated sample of the J26 in the NER livery. That was one of the earlier versions.
Yeah.
And then the latest version was on the test track. But for the simple case of just showing the differences, we've got the late British Rail livery here, and you can see now with the improvements to the matte smokebox door, smokebox and cab roof with the gloss then for the rest of the black, which really...
It does, because they would have used a different type of paint on anywhere that's going to get very intense heating. So it's more of a stove enamel than the paint that would have been on the plating above the lagging. Otherwise, it would have literally just burnt straight off. So it's nice to see that actually being done rather than just doing the entire model in the black. But you've also got, I see there's the detail differences with things like the safety valve bonnets, the whistles as well. So
they started off with round bottom safety valves, and you got that kind of dome-shaped bonnet that goes on top of it. But then later that changed to Rospop safety valves. And it was also, as the boiler changed, because it was originally a diagram 57 boiler, it was later changed to a 57A boiler, which you'll notice by the fewer straps and the lack of and the change to the safety valves.
Is the dome in a slightly different position on this boiler as well? Or is that just...
So when the boiler was changed, the dome position also changed. Its position goes a little bit further back, I believe. It goes a bit further back.
It looks ever so slightly further back. Sometimes it's difficult to tell because the lining draws the eye, but there's definite change in there. And it looks like as well you've got a different design on the smoke box as well.
Yes, so with the NER and the LNER boilers, the smoke boxes, they were welded.
Right, yeah.
Later on, they were riveted. And this is actually a correction we've pulled from the J27 as well, because the J27s have this detail wrong.
Right.
So we've amended that with the J26. So yeah, earlier life it was welded. Later on, it was riveted. I'm guessing as a cost-saving measure, or I'm not entirely sure on that, but it made a huge difference being able to add that detail to the model.
Yes.
From what it was before. You will find lots of other differences between because we've had to expand the tooling suite to cover more variants. The smoke box doors are actually different between them as well.
I'm just looking at that because we've got the one with the BR number plate on and then without as well, which is the same as what the LNER's got.
Even just the shape, the profile of that smoke box door is different. The hinges aren't in the same positions. They've been narrowed between them. And so you will see a lot of little differences. The coal rails on the tender are different depending on which version you get. The cab roof is different.
Yeah, I've seen that with the Northeastern Railway one. You've got these almost like arched tracks of rivets where I'm guessing the separate panels were riveted together.
Ribs over the top.
Yeah.
It's either probably strengthening, and then later on that was omitted.
And it's almost like a one piece, but then you've got the rain strips at the side as well. And then moving further along here, these are the Pilchard wagons, and you were telling me earlier on, these are some of the samples from the factory. So they're not production items, but working on the not just the weathering, but also the wood grain. And I must admit, when I first saw these, I thought you'd personally weathered them yourselves, but actually this is what the factory's able to produce in terms of, I'm just looking at some of the rust on the straps. Now, I will stress this isn't the final one. You're saying that some of the colours and the actual spread of the rust patterns is being changed, but it really is quite effective. And when you get quite close in, you were telling me that they've even been able to tampo print the wood grain onto the wagon as well, which when you see it, it's very subtle but incredibly effective. And I suppose it's you already had tooling, so it's not cost effective to add a wood grain effect into the tooling itself. So the next best thing is to get the factory to tampo print.
Absolutely, yeah. As I say, making tooling adjustments, we've been fortunate with this particular tooling. It was a strong tooling. Nothing needed changing at all. Very happy with the quality and everything on it. So being able to just go ahead and use tampo to add that detail, and if I'm honest, I think it looks very, very good. But it also allows us some flexibility where we could actually have different patterns of wood grain, so they're not all the same. There will be subtle differences between them, but although you have to look at them, with a magnifying glass to really see the pattern there.
But then with the rust on the strapping and the way that bleeds across the wood, it really does bring these wagons alive. So I'm quite looking forward to another production run of those, just to see what you're going to be doing with the factory finished weathering. And then the final samples we got here, this was one of your recent announcements.
Fordson Super Majors, tractors, and then a company called Muir-Hill modify them and they would add the outer frame and the buffer beams on the ends for the use of shunting in small yards.
Yeah.
Where you would have to normally buy a locomotive, you have to train the staff.
And that's expensive because you've got to maintain the thing.
You've got the regulations that you've got to abide by, and all these things are just problems. So when you just bring in a tractor, which is a far simpler piece of equipment to do, less training required, more people are already capable of driving a vehicle like that, makes life a lot easier, makes things a lot cheaper.
With it being effectively a road vehicle tractor, you wouldn't even need a run-round loop or anything. You just use this to spot a wagon, and you could just unhitch the tractor and drive it around. It doesn't need dedicated tracks to do that.
Yeah.
This is the perfect thing that you could have posed on so many model railways, because it doesn't need to be just a small siding. You know, they would have potentially had these to aid with shunting in a variety of different locations, or even in places where perhaps the weight of a shunting locomotive would have prohibited it from working on lighter laid tracks or things like coal drops perhaps. So do you have an expected sort of time frame of release for these? Are they still on track for the announced release dates? So
the J26 has completed production. They're just running through the final testing and installing of sound versions. The decoders have been shipped from ESU to the factory. They're just making sure that it all works and it's all good. They'll be packaged and shipped imminently within the next couple of weeks. So we're expecting them hopefully in July.
Okay.
Depending on shipment times and things like that, we'll see how it goes. The banana vans, where we have completed production and they are ready for collection now, so that's shipping any moment, any day now. That'll be collected and shipped to us. So we could see that probably next month. The Pilchards are going to be a bit more of a longer term project. It depends on how the samples come back and how they look. And I believe that the shunters at the moment are actually in production, or if not, are about to go into production. So fingers crossed we see them later this year as well.
So that's brilliant. So thank you very much for talking me through the project, and it's really nice to see the production models of the J26. It's a model I've been really waiting for quite excitedly. When the J27 was announced, the fact that the J26 was designed in from the outset, I think is a great move. I think it's a really good way of offering other classes of locomotives which might not otherwise ever get a commercial release. If you'd just tooled up for the J27, it would have kind of cancelled out any possibility of a J26 being produced by anybody else. So I think this is a great way to actually go with production.
Having the ability to expand on that tooling and cover the J26 as well as the J27 makes financial sense. It's beneficial to the modelers, and that way we can do as much as possible for it and get the most out of that tooling and satisfy as many people as possible.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Additional support is provided by...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model OO gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest loco.
I do thoroughly love what I do. I remember always my dad saying to me, it started when I was 19, I finished school, and he said, you know, well, you can come and work for me for the summer, and I never left. And he always would say to me over the years, are you sure, you know, are you happy, this is what you want to do? And it was for many years, it was just an easy job for me to earn money. Until I think the turning point for me was about 2016, 2017, when my dad started to tell me about that he was going to go and help Hornby turn things around. And it was then a light bulb went off that was like, well, this is my opportunity now. He needs me to step up more, and I'm going to do that. And it's taken me until now to, you know, and with everything that happened with Dad, when I got sort of thrown in the deep end of elements of the business that I knew about, but I was never under complete control of. Thrown in the deep end, and that's where you start swimming then, and you start pushing even harder. So I do absolutely love what I do. People think I'm crazy. I don't really take much time off. I love and here all the time.
But you know, they say if you enjoy what you're doing as a job, it never seems like a job, and that's kind of how you want to be in life.
I look forward to it. Sunday evenings, I'm sort of prepping down ready so that I can have a solid week in work, and you know, I really do love what I do. I really do. So,
and I think that passion does come through with the products and seeing what's coming through and that attention to detail.
And my other favourite area of the job is sort of marketing. I love marketing, and I've realised that I'm not the best at it, but I tend to take on all the hats. You know, in sort of bigger companies, they may have a marketing team and a team of people who do licensing and a team of people who do that, and I tend to have to swallow it all. As a small business, you tend to take it all on, and I'm trying my best now to let certain elements be passed to other people, to give myself some more time to work on the things that I enjoy doing, and I know that I can make a bit better, like marketing. I don't want to, you know, we're not perfect, you know, things could be so much better, but we do it at a budget that works well for us. This is our rail section. So as you can see, we do not have masses of stock, and that's a combination of the pause that we've had over the past few years in development. A lot of this here is the new wagons, tank wagons and the 7-plank wagons.
I recognise some of the... I bought a full set of these actually when they came out. I have been waiting for the Big Four railway company versions of these since I think it was probably about the same time that the J26 was announced.
We suddenly had too much stock, and then we paused and we didn't release them. So when Guion came in, it was almost like it was almost done for him. The artwork was done. It was just a case of he wanted to fine tune it, and it was ready to go. And the same with the tank wagons. Well, the tank wagons, we'd only ever released about 6 or 7 of those, and it's like we really wanted to utilise the tooling that we had. We were created as a diecast company, and rail was an add-on. So I remember the day that my dad told me that we were going to be starting to do rail, and I would have been probably about 21. I probably didn't understand the industry, and I was like, okay, no problem. Didn't understand how different it was, because it's very, very different producing a rail item in comparison to a diecast. There's a lot more that goes into rail. It's a significantly longer process.
I think as well the market is very detail focused.
Very.
So you've got to be like very, very focused, even on things which to somebody who's perhaps not familiar with a particular type of wagon or a type of locomotive, it might seem like nothing, but actually you've got to do such in-depth research, and a lot of small fiddly parts go into the makeup of the model in a way that's probably far more involved than, say, with a diecast vehicle.
For us, when you release a diecast model of, say, you know, a new car or something, you release it in one colour, and then maybe a few months later you might release it in another colour, and then you don't want to really be releasing 2 colours at the same time, because people will go, oh, I'll choose this one or that one.
They'll have one or the other. But then if you wait, then they go, oh, actually I like that, and they have one and another.
Which
is very clever.
It. But with the rail, it's kind of like people will buy lots of them, all different running numbers, all at the same time, and put them on the list. And it was one of the big mistakes I made when we first released the banana vans, and the what was the other one we did?
There's a Great Eastern Railway van. Is that the one?
So my biggest mistake was that I just reran the same thing again. And what I hadn't understood about the industry is that people do want multiples with different running numbers on them. And that people say, why didn't you just do it with a different running number on? And we had enough orders to justify the reason. But that's what having we are now is teaching me, not
because he's very focused on, that's that's his area that he came from. Because I think the first time I actually met him was during the filming of Great Model Railway Challenge, because he was involved with that. So I'm guessing he's brought with him the experience of what railway modelers want to the business.
And whereas, because all I've ever really known is the diecast side of it, and I'm a lot more familiar with that. And I have, obviously, because I'm 35 this year, I think I am, 35. So some of the cars that we're making, I've never seen. They're before my 60s, 70s. So I have Adrienne Fuller, who's our product development for the diecast, and she's good at the detail for that. So it's kind of I take their word for it. I listen to their advice of what they go, no, that's going to be a good one, and that's not going to be a good one.
Well, it's interesting you say that. Things like you've just recently brought out, there's the Bond Bug. Which, for anybody, I mean, I never saw Bond bugs on the road. They were never a thing, even when I was very small. And I can only ever remember seeing a Bond bug once, and it was such a weird thing. I remember my dad going, "Oh, do you know what that is? That's a Bond bug." But it's like one of those quirky things that people go, "Oh, I want one of those."
It was the same with the Invacar. Do you remember the?
Yeah, because they used to be everywhere.
So the car for disabilities. I think it's been not allowed to go on the road anymore.
Because they were owned by the government. So it was the original Motability scheme. So rather than what they do now is you get a grant to be able to convert a regular car, it was like on a long-term loan. You never actually owned it. So when they were withdrawn, the Invacars just disappeared overnight. But they used to be everywhere. I mean, I can remember them on the road. I can remember.
I don't remember them at all. So
this was early 80s, and in fact, just up the valley in Ustragunlice, I can remember just round the corner from my grandparents, somebody had one, and I could just very vividly remember. I just used to walk past it all the time because it was just parked there on the road.
And it's that nostalgia feeling then when you see it in a model. Those little niche things, they really work.
Nostalgia is very powerful, and in some respects, that's kind of what, with a collectible market, what you're doing is you're appealing to people's sense of a happy period in their life where they didn't have responsibilities, where the biggest worry in their life was whether or not they could get the new trading card game, or whether they could get home in time to watch the latest cartoon on TV. And people kind of form this bond with things that were around them that remind them of that time, that years later, when they've got a disposable income, they've got a hobby, they suddenly go, I remember that. And it's
something in them.
It's that hunter-gatherer instinct kicks in.
I don't know what it is about miniature. People just love what they remember in miniature form. So
I think it's a way of owning a bit of that nostalgia in a very easy to store and affordable way. Because you wouldn't go out and buy a real Invacar or a real Bond bug because it would be very expensive.
It's the same for me now. I wouldn't go out and buy a real Range Rover, so I'll just have a little miniature version of it, and I'll stick with my Kia Sportage for now.
And I suppose what you really want is you want them to be at a price point where they're an impulse purchase, where that people don't have to sit there and with the railway modelling stuff. Sometimes, especially with things like a locomotive, there's a decision process: should I, shouldn't I? But with a model car, they're priced at a point where it just becomes an impulse purchase. It's like, oh, my dad had one of those. You've bought it without having to justify the cost. But I think a lot of people perhaps forget that Oxford Rail and Oxford Diecast is a family business. This isn't a mega corporation. This is your family.
And you always sort of feel pressure to do more, and why aren't you doing this, and why can't you branch out into this, and it's because we're not trying to be the people that, for rail, it's kind of like an add-on to Oxford Diecast. It was an addition to it. We're not trying to take the market by storm. We just saw a gap that we could fit into and thought we'd do a few things here and there, which this rail supports that Oxford and vice versa. So it was kind of like a little add-on. So, but there's always this expectation once you start a range, and we were sort of going at a good pace pre the Hornby buyout. We were going at a good pace, and then COVID and being bought by Hornby, it all sort of came to a halt. But we are now progressing with development of things, and hopefully we can keep it going. But it's not going to be at the pace of other manufacturers. Well, that's not what we're trying to do. We just kind of want a piece of the pie as opposed to the whole thing. We just want to add to it.
And I think as well, especially with things like railway, people, one of the questions I get asked more than anything else is, do you think they'll ever run out of things to make models of? And I say, actually, there's so much out there. There's actually room in the market for lots of different companies to all do their own unique things, that all have a market for those things without actually having to go toe to toe. And, you know, some of the models that Oxford Rail's brought out in the past have actually, they've kind of come out of left field. Things like the Bosch Buster railgun, literally speak of the devil. So I mean, this, if you know, the week before it was announced, you'd have said, would you like a Bosch Buster railgun? I think most people would have gone, oh, what now? But actually, when it came out, it was so different that it appealed to people. I thought, I actually really like that. And there were so many people that I knew actually bought one because they went, I just love it. I've got no reason that's kind of within my hobby to have this on the layout. I just want it. And I think it's, you know, sometimes it's going for products like that which just sort of triggers that bit in people's brain when they go, I just want one. I don't need an excuse. I just want one.
Yeah, so we ran that recently because the first batch did really well. But it was kind of, we felt that we'll take a break from it and we'll bring it back at some point. So we did, we've rerun it and it's done really well. That is literally all that's left behind.
Yeah, that's, I mean, that's not much. There's there's only 3 in each of the boxes, so that is not much left.
So, you know, it was a good call on the rerun of it, and hopefully we'll do more with it in the future. But like I say, bit by bit, we don't want to fire the market with loads of stuff. It's just an add-on to what we do. This is kind of a storage area here where we keep all of our books and catalogues and lots of historic things. So
there's like an archive of stuff here.
This used to be the catalogue, as you can see, hasn't been touched in a while. But this is where someone stored the globes in that go back years and years. But years ago when I first started, what we used to do, I don't know whether there's a full copy of it somewhere, but we used to print, every time we released products, we'd print a page which had about 4 or 5 of them on. And if you joined as a member, you would get sent this with all the pages in, and it's a catalogue of all our products. And over the years, it was getting heavier and heavier. And my dad was like, what are we going to do? So we ended up changing the concept to that we were going to release the review magazine, which we release every year, and it shows all the products that we've made in that year. And we do that every year. So rather than sending this out every time, you would have something that's like that, and people collect them along the way. But there's lots of odds and ends round here. You'll find some crazy things in this.
So, I mean, do you get people who say, have you got a particular issue number? And then
these are our monthly magazines. So people want to go back and collect the whole range. And we do keep them all, but as well for our records as well. But we only have a small amount compared to what's sent out. But we try and keep a back copy of what we've got. I dread to think what we'd find in this little area, but these were what my dad did years and years ago for like coins that he did for VJ and VE Day. Over the years he's done some funny odd things. This year my dad, a lot of people won't know this as well, is that my dad...
Do you want to live with that?
I think it's here. My dad wrote books. Now... Children's books he did.
I didn't know that.
No, because he hasn't put his name on. He didn't want... So it's Benjamin Smith. So William is his father's name, and then Smith. And he did books and bears, and you'll probably catch somewhere on the roof somewhere. We've got this massive, gigantic bear that was used for marketing. He's done all sorts of things over his time. A man of many talents. Honestly, he's done games. There was a game called Mokes, and it was like a board game, and he did that, and he worked in Microlink, which was now the old post office, the new post office, and he was doing torches, and for many years we'd find boxes of random things here, and there probably is so much here in terms of history that my dad, as a bit of a hoarder, wouldn't throw away. So there's boxes and boxes of bits and pieces, and we come across them from time to time, and we think, that's brilliant, like that must be 20 years old, 30 years old. And so there's a lot of stuff here.
I'm just looking here. There's the Triang mimic ships.
Yeah. So we do sell those still on the website, but that we've got to the point where that is everything we've got left. So there's odds and ends in here as well.
Because these, I can remember as a child seeing stuff like these about.
Yeah, I think my dad had met a guy in Hong Kong, and he was doing these Triang ships, and it led to us bringing some into the UK and selling them here. But we did it for a few years, and then it phased out, and these are just odds and ends that we've got left. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Gosh. So, I see. So, US Navy ships. So you can actually make like a full harbour.
Yes, yeah. You see those layouts that we had at the beginning?
Yeah.
I think that was what these would.
That's what these would have been displayed on.
Yes, yeah.
Wow, I've never seen them actually on the car. I've seen them loose, second hand, but I've never actually seen them on the card.
On the card.
Gosh, you could make a fortune on eBay with these. There's loads of them.
So there's lots of random things. We spent many years trying to get rid of plates that my dad did in connection with the newspaper with Charles and Camilla's wedding. And what happened was they changed the date last minute. Something happened.
Oh, so there was a whole run with the wrong date?
So there's a whole run of them with the wrong date on. And we've been eating toast off them for years. Oxford originally started with the Bullnose Morris, and it was lots of companies always coming and wanting their logo on the side, and you'd buy a jam jar and there'd be advertising, or buy the newspaper and it'd be advertising there. And it was only, I can't remember what year it was now off the top of my head, but he decided then to go into this collectible industry of making scaled 176 model cars that you would see on the road, and that's where he sort of ended his book. So he did a book, my dad did, here. And he ended this book. So this takes him through the journey of Metoy, Corgi, Microlink and Oxford. And it sort of ends in the year around 2006. And this is when he began, so the last chapter is 2001 to 2006, and it was right then where he started to develop this 176 range. And it says that who knows how this will all end. As we're poised and ready to enter 2007, we've all made our plans, and all we have to do is deliver. So, and then Dusty, who used to work for us, 1 taff is worth 10 men. Who knows how this will all end? So that's when it really began. But he's never written a follow-up. So maybe now that he's semi-retired, he can start.
You need to persuade him.
I know.
We need to know the rest. Yes.
We need a follow-up now. So yeah, but yeah.
A huge thank you to Eloise and Gwion at Oxford Rail, Oxford Diecast for showing us around and showing us all of what they've got in the pipeline. We're really, really looking forward to seeing that J26 hitting the shops. So just got time for me to say, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. You can check us out over at Patreon. We've got the Monday Club badges there for you to buy that get you exclusive in-person discounts. And don't forget to support the retailers that support your hobby. But until next time, this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying you take great care. Bye for now.
Today's video is sponsored by Train-O-Matic, makers of DCC decoders designed to be fully compatible with every manufacturer's locomotive. Visit train-o-matic.com to browse the full range and see what they've got suitable for you. Additional support is provided by...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest loco.
We're proud to be supported by TMC, the Model Centre, your first choice for new and used. Pre-order all forthcoming models with confidence, or check out the extensive listings of second-hand. Each model is checked by experts in the field to make sure you're getting the very best. With new models uploaded daily, there's always something new to find. You can also specify from their value weathering and renumbering service right through to bespoke graffiti to get exactly the model that you want. Get something special today by browsing at themodelcentre.com. I'd like to thank everybody over on Patreon, and an extra special huge thanks goes out to our Patreon heroes. Without you guys over on Patreon, we really wouldn't be able to keep making the video content that you see on this channel. And don't forget that you can also head on over to patreon.com/JenniferKirk and check out the different tiers of rewards. Thank you so much. You are absolute legends.